Hello! Hopefully you can hear me. I've got 20 seconds before my assistant tells me you can hear me, so I'll say hello to everybody in the chat. A little behind the scenes sneak peek already. I press the button to go live. I goes to the website, second button to go live. It says you're ready to go live, and then it said there's an error. But apparently it was lying to me. So we are good to go. Hello, everyone. You're all saying hello now, so I know that you can hear me. That is fantastic. Right. Okay. Let's see if the slides move, and then we are good to go. They're moving. Fantastic. Hopefully they're moving at your end as well as my end. Hello and welcome to the event. I'm Elaine Giles. If you have never heard of me, I'm a long-time computer trainer, podcast host, YouTuber. I work with macOS, iOS, Windows and all kinds of apps, but particularly the Affinity apps, as well as Scrivener, Office and even Creative Cloud at times. Do not hold that against me. You've got to know what the opposition are doing. Okay, we're broadcasting in 1080p. Make sure that you are watching in 1080p. There is a cog in the lower right-hand corner. It's near the like button. I'll just mention that. Make sure from there that you've got the flash on it. While you're there, there's also a subscribe button. And you could subscribe. And that way you would be notified of all the upcoming events. So tonight's event is going to be applicable to macOS and Windows. Although I'll be demonstrating on a Mac, everything works exactly the same on Windows in this case. The reason that I'm not saying an iPad is because there is no data merge in an iPad version of Affinity Publisher. And we will be doing a little bit about data merge. The rest of it you could do on an iPad, but that part of it you can't. Right, this session is number 6 in a series that started last year. We looked at creating planner pages, which were just basic static planner pages. Then we added interaction to them. Then we did some data merge. Now, we did what I would say is standard data merge for planner pages, but we had to veer off slightly when it came to weekly planner pages because there was a gotcha with the weekly planner pages. So we did a dedicated session for that. Now tonight we are looking at weekly planner pages, but I've got a simple way to do it that's not as complicated as that way that we covered in that session. But if you want the deep dive, it's that session. And the last one we did was stickers, which was just before the new versions of all the version 2 applications came out. Tonight, we are going to be looking at daily planner pages, particularly for teachers. The differentiating factor, because all of this is useful if you're not a teacher. But if you are a teacher, one of your issues would be that you may only be working Monday to Friday and you don't want the Saturday and Sunday in there. So we've got a vertical planner, a horizontal planner. Then we'll be getting smart with dates for how you could automatically date these pages easily. That's the key point, easily. Then I've got a grade or attendance tracker. And then we've got lesson plans in terms of laying them out, but also creating the content fast. And the lesson that I'm using for the demonstration of the lesson planner, I didn't write it. Let's just say that. But nobody else that I know wrote it either. All will be revealed. And then I've got a worksheet, which I'll be repurposing from numbers to letters. So that's the plan. We will have a dedicated Q&A because I know that you will be having questions as we go through. So put a Q at the beginning of the question and we'll gather them all together and answer them at a relevant point. Putting a Q at the front is the key to this. Also provide a little bit of context. So when I say context, if you're saying, what's that button for? By the time I've got the question, I'm not going to know which button it was. So just give a little bit of context, just enough so I understand what the question actually is. And as I say, we will be having a Q&A at the end. So planner pages for teachers. So yes, they are for teachers. They're specifics being useful for teachers, but how I approach this, I'll be using various features of Affinity Publisher, and that is useful for everyone. So let's start off with a vertical planner page. I think in all the planner pages we've done, I'm not at all sure we've done a vertical one. which is basically the days across the top. So let's go have a look at a vertical planner page. So I'm going to need Publisher. I'm using Publisher version 2. I don't think there's anything that I'm showing tonight that wouldn't work on version 1. And you may, if you were quick enough, have noticed that I've got the beta version installed as well, but I'm not using the beta version for this. And if it ever opens, don't have me worried. I've got a splash screen on another screen. So it is opening. There we go. Right. First of all, sizes for these planner pages. It doesn't matter. There's good news on that front. It really doesn't matter, because I'm not working to any particular size. I'm working to the number of cells in a table. So it's completely scalable and will work in any circumstance. So it really doesn't matter. So for the demonstrations, make it simple. I'm sticking with A4. For this one, I'm assuming that I'm going to need it wider rather than tall. So I will change that. Now, the nearest in the States to A4, I believe, is letter. But as I say, it doesn't matter, because I'm not working with pixels with this. I'm just going to make a table and then I'll move the table and do it that way. So we're not worried about the size of the page at all. We might be worried that I can see the margin though, so that's a good start. Okay, I've got all kinds of panels opening in all kinds of places here. So what I'm going to do for this first one, this is the days at the top one, the vertical one first. I did say vertical first, didn't I? I'm losing the plot already. Right, I need a table to make this work. So if I'm putting the days across the top, how many columns do I need? Now you might think 5, but I'm also going to need some times down the left-hand side. So actually I'm going to need 6. And from top to bottom, I'm going to need 10, which is 9 for the hour slots and then 1 for the top. Now, if you draw out with the table tool that, you might think, oh dear. Right, there's a couple of ways that you can go about this. You can either draw it out to the size you need to start with and then scale it, or you can fill it and then worry about the number of cells you need later. Right, if you take the approach that I've done there, we've now got 39 by 10, I think, across the top. Right, so I can click at the bottom and I've got a number displayed and I only needed 10 here. I can either use this to take it down, so you can see as I'm doing this it's removing rows, or I can double click in there and actually type in what I need if I know what that is. And I can do the same over here. So initially there's 10, but I only need 6. Right, it does keep the width, it does not keep the height. It's weird, isn't it? It behaves differently. Right, so I'm going to drag that down. I still need to do different things with this. But the basics are there. So what I could do is come into here, and in B1 I would have Monday and C1 would be Tuesday and so forth. In A2 I would have the start hour, so in the UK that would be 9 o'clock. In the US I think it's a little bit earlier, and just put hour increments down here. You can double the number of cells if you like and have them in 30-minute intervals. I'm going to stick with the hour ones. But I wanted to get you used to the fact that although you're probably working in Affinity Publisher, there are ways to make your life easier. So let's have a look at that. And the way that I do that is using another application that isn't necessarily viewed as a helper application. Helper applications are like, oh, I've got a clipboard extender or something like that. But this is Excel, which is a standalone app in its own right. But it can help us when it comes to this, making sure that there's no mistakes. I used to get things at school and they were like out by an hour and things like that. Obviously not done in Excel, not done in a clever way, but done manually. I am attempting to open a spreadsheet. It is having a think about it. There we go. Right, so what I've done in this spreadsheet, come on, get to the right size. All I've done is put this grey background so I know what I'm putting in there. The grey background, come on, the grey background is nothing to do with what I'm doing. It's just so I know where I'm putting my data. So in the first one, I'm going to put Monday. And obviously I would like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. And luckily Excel can do that. No spelling mistakes here. And down the side there, if I was starting at 9 o'clock, And my next one was going to be 10 o'clock. As long as I give Excel enough information so it can see a pattern, so there's 9 and there's 10, if I pull this down, it will fill in to 5 o'clock for me. It's a tiny time saver, but if you're making lots of these, you don't want any mistakes. So it's much easier. So I'm going to grab the days at the top, and I've copied them. Move that out of the way and come into here. Now, the trick when it comes to pasting into cells in Affinity Publisher is to help Affinity Publisher out so it knows exactly where you want stuff to go. Because if I paste, it puts them all in one cell. It's not that intelligent on its own. I need to tell it, put those blocks of text in those cells, and then it understands. Going back to Excel and selecting the numbers, so from 9 till 5, copying those, and grabbing the cells to put those in. Now you can see what happened when I put the days in. It put them in the right place. They need formatting, but it put them in the right place, and it didn't do anything else. So I'm doing exactly the same thing here and pasting, and you'll see it added an extra row. I don't know either. I've no idea why it does that, but it does it all the time. So I have to go in and I then have to delete it. It didn't do that with the columns, so it is doing different things. But now I've got the information in there, there's no spelling mistakes, and I know that all the numbers are right. So that's why I would do that in Excel. It only takes seconds, and I can copy and paste it, and it's correct. Then I need to do some formatting in here, don't I? So I'm going to select the whole lot. Because I want the text to be not at the very top of the cell. I'm using the top align option here, or the align option, and I'm going to centre it vertically. The times, not too bad. Do I want them centred? Well, I could do. It depends on the cell. At the moment, the cell's actually a little bit wide for that, but I definitely here want these centred. So I will go in there and choose centre align, and that puts those in the right place. Right, this column is actually a bit too wide. I would like this indented slightly, but there's too much of a gap. So what I need to do is just narrow down the column. If I narrow down the column like that, obviously it makes Monday much wider than the rest. If I were to do that from the bottom, other things would happen. Like it would actually shrink it down. It doesn't shrink it down across, but it does shrink it down if you change a row. So I've got that about right. That would be fine now if that was centered. It would give me a little bit, it would look better. So let's try centering it. It's not having it. Why are you not centering? You think you're already centered. Maybe I've got something on the table format there. Let's try that. Not quite that much like that. Right, now it's looking much better. But I've still got the problem with Monday not being the same size as the others. Don't waste your time trying to make it the right size. Select the columns that you want to be the same size. So I've deliberately not selected the first column. Right click on the top where you've got your heading and choose evenly distribute columns. And that sorts the entire mess out. Right, next things to do are basically formatting to make it look pretty. But that was a really quick way to be able to create that vertical planner. But what I'll do in here is I will use a different font, a little bit chunkier than that. In the fonts up here, I have some fonts that I use quite frequently. And I don't really want to be going through all of these fonts. I'll be here all day. So in our fonts, we've got recent, used and favourites. And I've favourited Poppins, which is the one I'm going to use. So it's easier to turn the font drop down to favourites and work like that. So let's make those a bit bigger and do the same to this. So change it to Poppins. Obviously, there are styles to do this. This is not a style session. So I'm not doing it correctly in terms of I'm not using a style, but that's purely for time. All right, she'll make that 15 and we're good to go. Right, when it comes to the cells themselves, so the headings for the days, you probably want to have a range of colours. So what I've done is I've created a palette that I want to use. That way I've got consistency across all my documents. I used an application called Pastel to create it. It's opening up. Which screen? Oh, you're opening up on this one. Fantastic. So what I did was down here, I created that. And how I intend to get those out of there into Affinity Publisher is that I actually exported it from here as an Adobe Swatch Exchange file, which means I can just open it. So at the bottom where you've got your formats, it's a Swatch Exchange file that I created. So having already done that, I will go and get it. Now, if you don't have anything like this, you could leave this on another screen, or you could split your screen with Affinity, and Affinity can pick up colour from anywhere. So if I take this and I move it across to the left-hand side of the screen, and I have that on the right-hand side of the screen, and I want here the background of that cell to be a certain colour, I am going to drag that over here. So it's the table options that we've got. So I'm going to fold all of these up. Right, what we want is not the frame. We want an individual cell, which is this one here with Monday on it. And we're looking for the stroke and the fill. And obviously it is the fill in this case. You have here an eyedropper where you can pick up a colour. And it doesn't have to be from Affinity Publisher. It can be from anywhere. And to apply it, you then just click it. So it's a two-step thing. You need to use this to pick up the colour, and then you need to click it a second time to apply it. So we'll do another one from here by going into Tuesday. And again, I'm going to click on fill. I am going to use this and drag it across, choose one of those and click to apply it. That's the way to do it if you haven't got it as a palette, or somebody's just sent you an image or something like that. But there are proper ways to do it as well. So we should probably look at a proper way to do it. So give me 1 second while I go and find it. I've got all kinds of windows open on here. Now would be a good time. We've got any questions? Anything pressing?
Peter says, when importing data from Excel, could you import the column labels and row labels in one go?
You might be able to. You might be able to. It would depend on how it understood the selection that would be needed at the Affinity Publisher end. So if you think about it, I had to select the cells. So I could make a non-contiguous selection, but I'm not sure it would necessarily know what to put where. So to me, it's far easier to do it in two separate bits. It really is. The other thing is, of course, once you've got one of these, you don't particularly ever need to create another one, because you could. I mean, what I'm doing with it, I've not made a master at this point that's a naked master, one which is unformatted, but I could have done, and then you would really never need to do it again. The copy and paste from Excel numbers and Google Sheets is a nightmare. Sometimes it copies bits, sometimes it doesn't. You have to be in a certain mode. It's not exactly foolproof yet. And obviously there's a long, long way to go with tables in Affinity Publisher. When I started prepping this session, it was like, I'll do that, and I'll do that. And honestly, 5 minutes in, it was like, well, that's not going to work, is it? And I needed workaround after workaround after workaround for limitations that are there. Like, for instance, you've seen already, it treats columns differently than it treats rows. Why? I don't know. I have no idea, but that's what it does. Right, so I do have in here a palette, if I can find it. So I'm sure it's in here somewhere. I wonder where. No, I had it. Come on. Don't hide it from me. I'm sure I'll find it in here somewhere. Where have you gone? I could probably search. There it is. Right. So what I've got in here is this Adobe Swatch Exchange file. So I'm going to load it in over here. So what we've got in the swatches, and there are different types of colours as well, but we're going to go in here and we are going to add, do an import. So import a palette. You have to tell it what type of palette you want. In the Mac, there are 3 of them. An application palette will only appear in Publisher. A document palette will only appear in this document, but a system palette will appear system-wide, and as far as I know, that's not yet available on Windows. So I'm going to say as a document palette. Then it will want to know where that is. And it is somewhere in here. Oh, where did I put it? Oh, crying out loud. And my app isn't working either. That's not great. Right, XO2, I believe. Oh, you are now working. You're thinking about it. There we go. So an ASE file, if you've got colours on your computer and you want somebody else to share them, you could either put them in a file or you could export them in Affinity format. The reason that most apps export in Adobe Swatch Exchange format is that virtually any application can read them. So it's not proprietary to Adobe in that regard. Other applications can use them. So let's open that one up. And the colours that you saw me pick, the purple and this colour, are the first 2 that have come in. But then all I need to do is go into the cell that's to have the new colour. And from the fill, instead of working with the colours in here, I can choose in here my untitled, so I would give it a title, palette that I've just installed. And I can then go through it and choose whichever ones I want, like that. This is probably one of those things that you want to be thinking about. You know, do you want it just in this document, or is it branding colours, or however you want to organise it? And then you have your planner. And you could do whatever you wanted with that. So you could put stickers on it, you could decorate it. You may need to do something different if you want it as 2 A5 pages with a spiral in the middle. But the principle is the principle. You would just separate it and have one on one side and one on the other. So what we're looking at tonight is principle. Okay. Right, at that point we have our vertical one. And when I say about it fitting in other sizes, all you would need to do is copy paste it and then change the size, and that would be it. So there is our vertical planner. Next one, the horizontal one. Now you could actually start and edit what you've got. So you could duplicate the page and edit what you've got. For reasons that will become apparent, I'm not going to take that route because I want to show you some magic that you can do in Excel. Excel's got quite a starring role tonight, which is just as well because it fills in the gaps of what Affinity Publisher can't do. So let's have a look by just creating a new page. And one is fine. I'm going to move this out of the way because I've not quite got it docked, so I want it out of the way while we're working. Exactly the same principle, but this time I want the 10 across the top and 6 down the side. So if I get my table tool and I do this, you can see it's giving me information. I can pretty much ignore the width and height because I'm going to stretch it out when I've finished. But you can see the C and the R, and the C is the columns and the R is the rows. So I've got it at 10 and I wanted it at 6, I think. So if I take that up, I've got 6. And across here, I wanted 10. So if I pull it out, I should be able to get it to be C10 and R6. And I'm not concerned in the slightest about the size of it because as soon as I've drawn it, the entire thing is selected, which is why it's got white handles on it. And I can just grab that and pull it down and grab the side and pull it out. And that way I don't have to fiddle and put the numbers in. But personally, I find the first way that I did it a little bit easier. Just your mileage may vary. Right, so in here we need the top one to be a bit narrower. So if I do that, see what's happening. Something different than last time. It is changing the size of the table. It's ludicrous. I would much rather it didn't. But what it is doing is leaving the others equal. So with rows, that's what it does. But with columns, it leaves the table the same width, but changes the width of the column next to the one that you're changing. So what I'd have to do here and I am holding here the Option key down to do that. What I'd need to do is to just scale this back to what I want it to be. It will keep 2 to 6 exactly the same, but it will stretch 1 out a bit. So sometimes it's trial and error to get it how you want it. Right, so this one's going to be Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. Now, I can't really do much with this up here. I could copy them one by one and then I wouldn't have any spelling mistakes. But let's go back to Excel. Right. Why aren't you moving? Oh, that's better. Right, so this one was the vertical one. I've got the Monday to Friday in there. If I were to copy that, you've already seen me copy it once and paste it into Affinity Publisher. But if I copy it in here and I go to horizontal and I am in 2, which is A2 is exactly where it would be in Affinity Publisher. If I were to paste, it would paste across. But if I go to paste special, I've got an option to transpose at the bottom. And if I do that, it pastes it downwards. I don't have to retype it. I don't have to copy it cell by cell. I'm just going to transpose it. And I can actually do that with the numbers as well. So I can copy these, go over to the horizontal one, go to the first cell, edit, paste special, choose transpose, and click OK. And now the second time I copy to paste, I'm going to copy it in here and I'm going to paste it into Affinity Publisher. It just makes it that little bit faster. Obviously for this, there's a little tiny bit of data, but sometimes you can be pasting whole date ranges and things, and it's easier to do it like this. So I would say get to know Excel because it fills in the gaps where Affinity Publisher has no feature. So I'll take those times and I will put those in here, remembering I need to select the whole lot and then paste them in. Then I need to go back to Excel and I am selecting Monday to Friday. I am coming back into here and I am grabbing these, and remember it won't actually quite work 100%. It will do it, but it will add an extra row because it doesn't know any better, which I will then need to delete. And then it's a matter of going in here and formatting this. I would suggest you make some styles. That's the right thing to do. But what I'll do, purely for speed, let's grab the whole of these and we will centre them. And just so you get to see it. And I would then change the format of that. So we've got my font, which is Poppins, and probably a bit smaller than that. So it fits. There we go. And now you've got it the other way. So whichever type you prefer, you can do that. Those are the horizontal and the vertical. The way you could also, instead of times across the top, you could have subjects across the top. So again, you're precluding spelling mistakes if you have your subjects created in Excel first. So just carry the Excel file around with you as well, and it makes creating stuff in Publisher a whole lot easier. Right, I'm about to take it to the next level. It's going to get complicated. So we'll go back in here. I think we'll use this one. And I'm going to make that text white. Let's have white text for that at the moment. Right, so before we go into the next session, do we have any questions?
Yeah, Patience says, could you do a facing pages portrait spread to make a 2-page weekly spread using this method?
Yes, you could. What you would have to think about is how you're splitting it. So particularly this one, which is wider, you'd have to think about how you're splitting the table. If you're doing a 2-page spread and you're going to print it out however you're going to print it out, and you don't have to worry about the spine in the middle, then you're fine. But if you've got something in the middle, like a spiral or discs, then you will have to have the table in 2 chunks. Not a nightmare. And let me show you how you would split it. So duplicate that page, or I would do if it would let me. All right, come on, duplicate. Right, the easiest way to do that is to just design it the way that I've designed it there. So let's say we've got the middle down here and we do have something for the middle. So I'll put something in the middle that's fairly boring. Right, let's just put something in to represent my spine in the middle, like that. Obviously, you wouldn't particularly want to just put whatever is in the middle over the top, because then the 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock slot would be narrower. But here's what I would do with it. I would take the entire table. So I've got the table. I would Command and J to duplicate it and turn one off. Then I would grab this one. I'd probably name it while I was at it. That's the one on the left, and this is going to be the one on the right. Okay, but the right one we can't see at the moment. So what I would do with this one is I would delete those columns. And what I'm left with, it does try and fill it, but I'm going to pull that back. So it's the other side of the spine. I can toggle that one off then, and then toggle the right-hand one on. Do the opposite to it, which is get rid of this, delete those, and then pull that back over there. Now, you could do this in a different way. You could do this where you design it that way, but why make work for yourself? By doing it that way and turning them on, you know the table is correct, your spine's there in the middle, and it was all done in one manoeuvre, which is going to be important when you come to automate it. So yes, you could do that. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Right, let's save that one because we're going to go up to that one. I should have saved that first, shouldn't I? Right, let's save it. We're totally in the wrong place now, but we're in there. So we'll save it in there as pages. Right. And I need to be back in there. Are you thinking about it? Okay. So now we're getting smart with dates. Those planner pages assumed that you were writing your own dates in, which some people love to do. They love to get artistic with it and write the dates in. The rest of us haven't got time for that, and we'd like to automate the dates. Now, this is where there's a trade-off. There's a trade-off between getting the dates in a simple way and working with the dates where it's easy at the point that you create the pages. And there's a million different ways of doing it. The option that I've taken tonight is flexible. It's flexible and it's easy. So there's no right way and no wrong way. It depends on your circumstances, precisely what you want to do. But I wanted it to be easy to create the initial data and not having to reformat that data to make it work in Affinity Publisher. And this is where the Excel file comes into it. So you're enjoying this, aren't you, Mike? Lots of Excel. Okay, so I'm going to get a different Excel file this time and show you how I created the initial dates. So what we are attempting to do here, we're going to try and make this, automate this, rather than redesign the whole thing. So I have an Excel file that it is thinking of opening up. Oh, indeed it is. Right, so most teachers work Monday to Friday, or whatever the days are in their country, but only 5 of them. Oh, do you remember when we used to get 2 days off? I work 7, but then I love what I do. Right, so I need to put some dates in here. So let's put in today. So the 20th of February, 2023. And enter. Right, 2 things happened. All right, first of all, it reformatted that and put 20-Feb-23. But in B2, it did something else. So let's zoom in so we can be sure. What's happening in B2 is it's telling me what day that date is. So if I change that to the 19th of May, that's my birthday. All diaries out now. Oh, it's a Friday, we can have a party. Right, then that in B2 changes. Now, that is there not necessarily because it's needed. It's there as a check so I can show you that the dates are working. So let's go back and put today in it. Right, you probably know that if you grab the corner and you drag down, it will do a fill. and it adds 1 to the dates. And the problem with that is there's a Saturday and there's a Sunday, which is why I have taken the time to put basically a check in column B. So, good, no cigar. So let's get rid of these and go back up here. And this time, hovering in exactly the same place, I'm holding the right mouse button down as I drag. And then I'm letting go. And that shows me this menu. And one of the options on this menu is just show me the weekdays. So if I choose that, no Saturday and Sunday. No Saturday and Sunday there. And I can carry on filling that down. I think I took it down to about 31. So let's see if we can see that much. Right, let's drag that. So again, I'm using the right mouse button. And I'm choosing fill weekdays. And I need to extend that a bit so we can check that there's no Saturdays and Sundays, and there's no Saturdays and Sundays. That is by far the fastest way to get weekdays, Monday to Friday. Now, first of all, you need to understand, so you can check before you put these dates in, that they are indeed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So in this cell, you'll notice the cells were blank until I typed something in here. So if I were to delete that, Wednesday would disappear. So we need to understand that. It's not that complicated. That's the formula. What that means is it has an if on it. So it's only going to do what I want it to do if it meets the criteria. And the criteria is whatever is in A2, which would be the date that I typed in. If what is in A2 is nothing, so equals speech mark means nothing. If there's nothing in A2, I don't want you to put anything in this cell. But if there is something in A2, then I'm going to use the text function to take whatever is in A2, so the value that is in A2, and show it in this format. And DD is just the day. If I put in D, it would show me the number of the day. If I put in DD, it would show me as a leading 0 and the day until the 10th. If I put in DDD, it would show me the first 3 letters of the day, but I want to see the entire day. And I've only put that in as a check. But it'll come in useful down the line, which is why I've taken the time to explain it. Okay, so back in here, that's what we're doing. Excellent. So that's our data, and it's in the weekdays column, and we are good to go. So I'm going to save the file, because obviously we need to access this from Affinity Publisher. Right, we got any questions about the Excel part?
We don't.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so how am I going to make this work in here? Oh, would that it was as simple as we'd like. So first of all, I need to add some data to this file. I need to get this file to understand that there's an Excel file with some data in that it would like to access. So I bring up the Data Merge Manager, which you will find available. It's moved. It's now Window Data Merge Manager. So in here, I need it to access some data. So I'm going to go in there. This is the vertical and horizontal, but I'm getting smart with dates, and it's in there as weekdays. So there it is. And you can see I have literally just saved it. Right. Doing that links this publisher file with the data. Next thing to do is look a little bit closer at that. You've got 4 options in here. We'll look at them individually. Let's close them all up. Right, the source. Now, the source file is weekdays.xlsx. If that's changed, you will need to update it. The show button will show it where the file is, and you can select the data file to use with the select button. But we need to be more granular than that because there was more than one sheet in it. Now it shows you the first sheet. So it by default attaches to the first sheet, which happens to be the correct one. So that was fine for us. And it tells you that there's 2 fields and 30 records, which is correct. I filled to line 31, but the first row was data labels. So the source is fine. The next thing is the filter, and this is filtering the records inside Affinity Publisher. Don't get excited about this. It's not that great. It can filter it, but only by a range. It's not conditional. You can't say use all the Tuesdays. It's not that clever. It can only do it via the number of the record. Then you've got the ability to preview. Well, it won't preview at the moment because we haven't actually added anything to the file. But when we have, that's how you would preview it. And then you've got the option to actually merge the pages. So that's where we're at with that. Right, clicking things and then moving. Okay, so we've got our data attached. So I can move that out of the way. The next step is to add the data to this. And this is where you'll probably, if you're trying to do it, hit a brick wall. Right, first of all, you need the fields panel. So I'm going to drag that out of there so you can see where it is in relation to everything else. You will find your data merge at the bottom, and you can see these are the 2 fields. I've got the date and I've got the day. Don't really need the day because I've already got it in there. But what I'd like to do is underneath that, so I might actually need that text to be a little bit smaller so I can get another row in there. So I'll take that down a bit. That'll do nicely. Right, so technically speaking, it's as simple then as going down and putting a field in, surely. So I'd want the date. So I could double click on that. Now what? And this is where a lot of people come to me and say, I've got this far and now I'm stuck. Right, the reason that they're stuck is, how do you get the Tuesday date in? Now you might be thinking, well, that's simple enough. I'll go to Tuesday and I press enter and put the date in. Really? And what date would you get? So let's go to Tuesday, because we've got multiple problems at this point, but luckily they are all solvable. We can fix them all. And put the date in. It's going to bring the same date in. Trust me on that. So if I do that and we preview it, oh, multiple problems. And this is what happens. And I cannot understand this. I really don't know why one or other of them don't fix it, either Microsoft or Affinity. Somebody needs to fix this. Right, first problem, they're the same date. And I don't want them to be the same date. But in a preview, it only uses one record to preview. So at this stage, you can't actually be 100% sure what the problem is. Second issue, it's a number. And that number is the number of days since, are you going to tell me when? 1st of January 1900, right, 1st of January 1900, according to the Excel expert sat next to me. So that's why it's a number. But it's not actually the date. But you think about what we've got in Excel. It's not showing as a number in Excel. So if we bring Excel back, it's a date. So I can't fathom why Affinity don't take this value, because if you look at it, it's not a number in Excel in any way, shape or form. But it brings it in incorrectly. We can fix this, don't panic. Right, so there's our problem. Right, just for the last check, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to generate the mail merge. All right, it's generated the mail merge. Trust me on this, it's not working. So we do have the same date, and it isn't even showing as a date. Now, most people give up at this stage. This is when they call me. Right, so no, that's not great. So let's come out of that. What I'm doing is I'm closing the merge file. Don't want that at all. Let's get back in here and try and fix it. So I will do a save as on this, because I'm going to delete some pages. So we're only working on the data merge that we want to be. So I'll do a save as, and we'll put in there data merge. Right. Which means I can get rid of this, because I do not want these extra pages in our final data output. Right, has anybody else had this kind of problem with dates, or is it just me? Shall I feel victimised? Let me know in the chat. Okay, so that's not working. Is the crux of that. That's not working. Right. Let's fix the date issue first. So the fact it's showing a serial number. Right. We can fix that because if we go back into Excel, which is why you need to understand Excel, we know that in this column, in column B, if we put in some magic, it extracts the day from column A. So if we went into column C and did some associated magic, by looking at column A, surely we could get a proper date out of it. And yes, you can. So what I'm going to do is explain it first and then do it. I would need to say if, so make it conditional. If in A2 there's no text, then don't do anything. If there is text in A2, take the value of it and display it in the format single number representing the day, full name of the month and the full year. So we have to type that in. Not that bad, honestly. So in here, equals if, I'm being very brave doing this live because it always goes wrong if I do it live. Right, equals if, and it's A2 is blank, then I want you to do nothing. Otherwise, I want you to text. So text. No. I've not finished. So don't close on me. I've not finished yet. I want you to put the text in here. Is it text speech mark? Oh, I was so close to being nearly there. I'll tell you what, I'll come out and have a look at it. Yes, I know it's brackets. I need brackets. So open the brackets and tell it what I want. And what I want is for it to look at A2, and I want it to display as one number for the day and the entire month, like that, followed by the entire year. And I need to put another bracket in to close it off. Hopefully it won't complain this time. Oh, it doesn't like it, but it fixed it. Right, so that's exactly what I had on the slide. I should have just copied it from the slide. And is it correct? Yes, because it's this value in here. And if that value in there changes, this one will change too. So I will call this full date, which is correct. And I will take the format so I know it's a heading, and I will format that. And then all I need to do with that is copy it down. And that could be any format you like. I've just opted for that format, but it could be any format you like. So we have to have column A because that's where we've typed the date in. But for Affinity Publisher to understand it and display it correctly, we need to have this in here. There may be other workarounds, but you are never going to know when they're going to break, because I swear I didn't need to do this before. So this way, I'm belt and braces. I know that this will work, even if Excel changes, even if Affinity Publisher changes, I know that I forced that format in there and it will work. So I just need to save that. Right, and then head back into here. Now, it's not going to fix it at all, because it's still referring to the date. So let's get rid of the date, and let's get rid of date in there. And we also need to update the data. So because the data's changed, we need to update this. And you saw that went from 2 fields to 3 fields. So now we know it's updated. We should also know that in here, where our fields are, we've now got 3 of them. So instead of using date, I need to use full date. So do that, put that in. Let's have a preview. Perfect. Perfect. Now what I would probably do with that is make sure in here this was actually a bit smaller, because some months may be a little bit longer. Also, you might want the date to have more significance than the date. Like that. That solves one problem. Now we've got the correct date in the correct format coming through underneath, but we still have a problem. If I carry on under Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, it's only going to add the same date. And that is because of the format of the data. So when we looked at this, when we looked at the weekly layouts, we had to totally change the data. What we would have needed to do and what we would need to do now to make this work, but for the fact I've got a workaround, we would have to take this and, come on, stop jumping on the screen. We would have to take this and we would have to take each block, so those 5 days there, and put them as day 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, or even Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now, why is that a problem? Well, it's not if you want to do it once. But think how we created this data. We pulled it down and used the weekdays function. So we wouldn't be able to fill a block like this of however many weeks. We'd have to transpose and copy and paste. The scope for error is far too much. So I want it to just work, don't we all? And I want to leave this data exactly as it is. Because if I go to this cell, and what I tend to do is I tend to put a fill on the cell. Like that. And that tells me, don't edit anything else, just edit that cell. Because if I do, and I go in there and I do that, everything updates, or it should do. It would do if I'd done it the way that I normally do it, right? So I would pull down, and that way I don't want to have to have gone in and created this block because I'd have to go back and recreate it. Oh, life's too short. Okay. So I want this to stay exactly as it is. But how on earth can I do that when this end isn't understanding that? There's a trick. Right. What I'm going to do is go into these cells and I'm going to delete everything. So I don't even want the days. You should have guessed why I don't need the days, because the days are in the data that's in Excel. Right. I also don't want that table. If I want multiple records on a single page, I don't just randomly put fields on the page. I need to create a placeholder for those fields so it knows to move on to the next record. So in our tools down here, I have this tool, which is the Data Merge Layout tool. Now, just like I don't want to do any more work at the Excel end, I don't want to do any more work at this end either. I don't want to have to delete that table and recreate it with the Data Merge Layout tool. That's all too much work. I've already done the layout. I just want to make it clever now. So if I get that tool and I draw it out, and you can see however big you draw this, you're only going to get 4 cells. But don't worry about that. We will fix that. So this is a data merge layout. You have on the context sensitive toolbar up here, all you need to make this exactly what you want, which is you need 5 columns and you need 2 rows, although you would get away with 1 row, doesn't matter. We'll make it 1 row. We will make it 5 columns. Now, obviously, at this stage, it's not in the right place or anything else. But the cheat, the dirty hack here, is that that can sit on top of what you already have. So if I move that into place here, I can pull it across there. And you can't even see the joins. So you see the little bits that are the joins. Once it's in place, they all line up with the table that is behind it. You are now working in the data merge layout. So I'll make it that we've got enough room in here. That should do it. Or we can actually make it the same size. You're just going to have to make sure that you remember that it's not a table cell. I would also lock the tables behind it so I don't inadvertently select it. What I'm interested in is this data merge layout. Inside the data merge layout, I'm going to get the text tool. And I am going to put a text box inside the first data merge layout block. I would zoom in so you can see the text, but it'll make more sense if I don't zoom in so you can see the rest of it. So what I'm going to put in here is, remember, I wanted the day of the week at the top. Well, I have the day of the week, so I could data merge it. So if I put that in there, you can see it automatically fills in 2, 3, 4 and 5. I wanted that centered, so we'll center the whole thing as well. And then I'll move down, and the next thing I wanted was the full date. So I'm going to put the full date in it. I actually want the day to be bigger than the date. So I think we could probably take that up to 16 quite comfortably. And we should be ready to go. So I'm going to click away and I'm going to click on the preview with record option. And now I've got a day and I have a date. Do not panic at this stage that it's all Monday because that's just the way it works. It says preview with record. There's also navigation. So if I show you here, preview with record is a single record. But as you move through, you get to see that your date is moving. It is accessing all of your data. Right, so let's take the preview off. Looking hopeful at this stage, looking hopeful. So what I actually need to do now is merge the entire thing. So hit the generate button and I'm generating. It's thinking about it, reading in the data, and there it is. So page 1 is today, going all the way through to Friday, and you can just carry on for however many dates that you've got. So I think we've done 6 weeks there. There we go. And we've fixed so many problems. Now, it probably seems at this stage like, oh, that was a nightmare. But trust me, that is the easiest way because you've not had to recreate anything at the Affinity Publisher end. And at the Excel end, what you've created, you can reuse as many times as you like. And you do not have to reformat that into blocks, which is time consuming and complicated and error prone. So that is getting smart with dates, where you can take an existing layout, lay a data merge layout over the top of it, and no one's any the wiser. I like that. I like that. Do we have any questions on that?
No question.
You're either your mind is boggled with the Excel end or you're stupefied with it. Let me know which. Let me know which. Okay, let's save that one. That's the actual data. So data merged, that one. Okay, close that one. And this was the data merge file itself, which I think I had already saved. Right, close that one. So I'm going to get the fields out of the way and push on with the next one. So let's have a look what the next one was. Oh, fun with a grade and assignment tracker. So I think the trick with this one was getting clever with tables. Where you don't want, again, you don't want any element of the layout to be tricky to recreate. So let's have a look at the grade and assignment tracker. Right, so I'm going to create another new file. Again, this is totally scalable. It will work in any way you want it to work on, any size of paper you want it to work on. I would probably, with this one, flip it round because I've got a lot of students and I'm going to have the students in a column. So, but as I say, it doesn't matter because the whole thing's scalable. Right, I'm going to add a table. As I say, I prefer to drag it out like that. I don't care how many's in anywhere. It doesn't matter to me. I will sort that out as we go. Right. That's interesting. Oh, there it is. Right. I can't remember how many I had. I think I had 8. I think I had 8 across, which means I'm going to need another one. So I'll add another one in. I think I had 7 assignments and a certain number of students, and I have no idea how many students I had. But I've got the data, so I'm going to open up the data so you can see the data. There we go. I think it was A to J or something like that, or a few more than that. Excel doesn't like me, does it? It's very slow opening. There we go. 19 of them. So If I've got 19 students, I need 20 rows because the top row is going to be what the assignment is or whatever it is you're tracking. So down here, I'm going to need 20. So again, I will grab at the bottom. Now, what I notice in here is when I've changed the number of rows or columns or anything else, I still have the table tool active. And sometimes you don't get that arrow and you end up drawing out another table. If you double click, it takes you back to the selection tool, which means you can click once and it's easier to pull it out. Right, not too bad at all, but I need to edit this table because this won't work for grades. Not like this, it won't. Right, I need the assignment or whatever you're tracking at the top. So this row needs to be deeper. So I'll drag that one down a bit. You can see what's happening. Even though I am holding the Option key, it's scooting off the end. Not an issue. You just need to grab the end and drag it back. Right, that's not too bad. That'll do. Now, column A needs to be wider than all of the other columns because it's got the student's name in it. So I need to grab that and I need to make that wider. Now this does something entirely different. As you can see, it does not make the table any wider, but column B is disappearing into itself. To the point, I can't really make that much wider. So I would then have to grab B and move B across so I can make room for A. It's just the way it works. I don't know either. Utterly ridiculous. Right, so I'm looking in here to see what the width of that actually is, which is the cell, and it's telling me it is 52.9, I think. I am looking at that in here, in the table controller, yeah, 52.9. I think we'd probably get away with 50 in there. So if I do that and type 50, come on, take the first number, there we are. So I can scale it precisely, that's what I want. And then you should know the trick by now. Select all the others, so click on B, hold the Shift key down, click on H, right click and evenly distribute. So far so good. Now I've got the names in Excel and we know that I can copy and paste from Excel. So I've copied the names from Excel, but I need in Affinity to tell it where to put them, and that would be in there. So I should be able to paste those names in. As usual, it adds an extra column. I wish it row, but I wish it didn't. Where's Sarah disappeared to? Crying out loud. Did I delete the wrong one? I think I did. I think I deleted poor Sarah. Right, delete the bottom row. Now, at this stage, I'm going to need to centre everything, as usual. So grab this and centre the text. I might need to take that back a bit. What I'll do is I'll centre it vertically. And what I'll do in here, that really doesn't need to be that wide, does it? Now, obviously it would in practice because it would have surnames as well. But I will take it back a little bit. Like that, just so it doesn't look silly. And do the evenly distribute again. Right, okay. Now, this would look better, so I'm grabbing hold of those cells. It would look better if they were indented slightly. So I've got an insets option that is equal all the way round, and it is chained together with the link insets. And it's very tiny at the moment. But if I make that a little bit bigger, you know, like 3-4 millimeters, it's much better in terms of you can read the text easier. It's not quite so tight to the left-hand edge. Right, and then up here we've got our assignments. So this would be assignment 1, etc. So what I'm going to do is grab the word assignment and put that in here, put a number with each one when I've done it. And you're probably screaming, oh no, it looks hideous. I know, but we're going to fix that. So let's just put those in there, and the last one, assignment 7. Okay. Right, luckily we can grab these, and while this panel, the table panel, is quite complicated, the way I approach a panel is, if you're trying to learn it, I go to it and I close everything up, and then I start with the top one. Okay, what's the frame? What does that do? And the frame applies to the entire table. Then I've got the stroke and fill, which applies to what's selected. Then I've got the cell, which applies to the cells, and so forth. I have vertical position, and we've got that set to the centre. And then I have rotation. And while you might expect, as you open rotation, to see something that has like a degree on it, no, it's going to flip the text. So at the moment we have the text going across, we can rotate it that way. We can rotate it the other way, so it's upside down. I'm not sure about the use of that, but I'm sure there is one. And there's the last one there, which is positively perfect for what we want. And again, in here where we've got the text inset, it could probably do with being a little bit more inset. And now we have our grid. One thing that would make this even better, and I've got to remember at this stage that I need to duplicate the page. I do not need sections, I need to duplicate the page. In fact, just for good measure, I think we'll make 3 copies. There is a rationale for this. Right, because if I undo, I lose the lot. Right, so in here, one thing that would make this a lot easier to work with is in the table, if I took certain cells, so alternate cells, is to change the background colour, so I've got alternating rows. So I am grabbing them. So I used the Command key on a Mac to make a non-contiguous selection. And in there, in the stroke and fill, I'm going to choose a fill. So I think I went for something green, but not quite that green, obviously. How did I do that? I think I went into here, I did, and I changed the lightness and then I took it down so it didn't look half as silly like that. Now that is great as long as you don't need to make any changes. But if somebody joins called Anne, then Beth's going to be green and Beth shouldn't be green at that stage. So it works as long as you don't make any changes. But if you make changes, it's not good. But what you can do is make sure that you've got your table selected and that everything is set as you want. So for instance, these I'd probably have pop-ins again, and I would probably have pop-ins over here. So let's change that. Now I've made the copies though, haven't I? But never mind. And we'll make that a little bit smaller so it fits. Right, so we've got a table that's positively perfect. Right, so I'm going to select it. And not the table panel. Leave the table panel alone. If you go into table formats, you are able to add a format from selection. That's why it's important that you've got the table selected. If you don't have the table selected, that option's just not there. So I'm going to add that. And that gives me this, which is a table format. Now, table formats can be as complicated as you like, and we've got a whole session on working with tables. But for what you've got here, if I then go to one that isn't formatted, and I select it, and I apply that, then I've got my automated row colour. Also, if I were to add one or insert one, it would all update and it would all work perfectly. You can also use different colours and then edit it and update the thing, the whole works. So I will show you a very quick change with it. And sometimes it crashes at this point, or at least version 1 did. Right, I'm going to edit format 1. So it's complicated, as you can see, but that and that, which is green, so those 2 cells which are green, in here it's format 7. Now I would go through and I would tidy this up and I would do it properly. This is just to show you that if you did want to change this colour to something peachy like that, and now I am looking and I am not seeing it. Oh, I know what we'll do. That'll work. Right, I'm moving across to this one and I'm going to grab the colour from there. No, I don't want you to be black. No, I want you to go and grab that. Right, let's do that instead. Yep, that'll work. And OK that. And you can see it updates because it had that format applied to it. And that is a really quick way to update the whole thing. Now, in reality, I would have taken this much further, and I would probably have changed the outline from black, and I'd probably have had different text, the whole works. But, you know, in a demonstration, if I were to sit and do that, it takes quite a while. But the idea is at the end of it, when you've got it, you reuse it constantly, and you never start from scratch. You would duplicate it. So if I wanted another one of these, I can go in here and I can edit a copy of it, and that gives me a completely different thing. So if I were to go into here and change this to something else, go back over there and change that to the same thing. This is a pain, but we'll do it. And grab the purple and apply it. Now I've got another style entirely. So I could go to my third one, and I've not had to start from scratch. I'm just selecting it and applying it. And I didn't have to go through and create the thing and manually format it. I can take something that already exists and make derivative on derivative of it. It can get a lot more complicated than that, but when I say complicated, maybe that's being unkind. It can get a lot more powerful than that. In terms of, I can create global colours and global styles and all the rest of it, so things would automatically update even more. But that is the grade tracker, and that is how you format it. So do we have any questions on that?
We do not.
Okay. Right. Grades, that one. Right. No, come on. Where did I type that? I've just typed the word grades and it didn't appear, so it's not good. It's not selecting it. What's happening? In fact, it's not responding. So unless it... Whoa! Where did that just go? And now it's saved it. It's really playing with my mind today, isn't it? Right. Okay, what we got next? Oh, I'm liking this one. This one is so cool. Right. Do I look like a teacher? Oh, some people might think I am a teacher. I couldn't cope with teaching children, though. You have my utmost respect. I've got no patience, have I, Mike? No. None whatsoever. No. So I didn't write the lesson plan. It wrote itself. All will be revealed. So it's how to create a lesson plan that you would keep in your planner, but create the content fast as well. So showing you two things, really. Okay, so I'm starting from scratch again. And again, it doesn't matter in terms of layout at all. I didn't mean that either, so don't do anything. I pressed the wrong key. Right, a new file. I'm just starting from scratch. But I need a lesson plan on something. So as a test, and I'm going to find it now. I had it in my browser. So as a test, I thought, what would you maybe write a lesson plan about that I'm capable of writing? And came to the conclusion, not much, unless it was related to Affinity. So I thought, no, what do children need to know? And I remembered when I was younger, we did geography. Or we did until, oh no, I carried on doing geography. I took geography as far as I could go. And one of the things we did was we spent virtually an entire year looking at Australia. And so I thought that's interesting. So I know Australia fairly well, but I still wasn't qualified to write a lesson plan. So what I did, if we open this up, which is my notes, so I'm in Notion, I said to Notion, write me a lesson plan for students 12 years of age, and we want to cover history, culture and geography of Australia. And that is what the AI wrote for me. So I'm sure you've heard of ChatGPT. This is what the AI in Notion is based on. And while we've had our differences, AI and myself, in terms of if I ask it about factual things, it seems to make a mess. But if there's any wiggle room, and if you think about it, the wiggle room in terms of a lesson plan, teaching children about Australian culture, it's not really capable of being right or being wrong, is it? As long as it's about culture in Australia, it doesn't really matter the precise wording. So AI makes some mistakes, but it seems to be more confused with factual information. If you look at what we've got here, that is actually a fairly decent lesson plan. So I asked it again. That was the first one it came up with. And this was the second one, where I specifically asked it about culture. And that one had even more. And I asked it the second time to break it down into bulleted points, etc. So that's what I mean when I say fast. You're going to either love or loathe AI, but I treat it as a starting point. So yes, I've said to it, do me an outline of an introduction course to Affinity Publisher. And sometimes no, that's not good. In terms of it's listing features and telling me to teach them, and those features aren't in the app. So there was one that I did, and I crossed out like 80% of what it suggested. And I can tell you why it went wrong. There obviously isn't enough feeder information out there on Affinity Publisher. So it had cheated and copied one from Adobe InDesign. And when I looked at those features, they're all in Adobe InDesign. But as I say, this one can't be that far wrong. So it's a great starting point. I didn't limit it to Australia. I went in there and I asked it for other ones as well. So this is the history and culture of Iceland. And again, it did a fairly decent job. That one, I didn't ask it for a bulleted outline. So it just put some stuff in there. But it even said, as an extension activity, ask the students to research one aspect of Icelandic history. So it is pretty good. This is something it does very, very well. So I'm going to go and take the Australian one, I think, and I think I'll go for the first one, which is that one. Let me have a look. Yes, that's the one I'm going to go for. So all I'm going to do with this is copy it. So that's my text copied. All I then need to do in here, I mean, how fast is this for a lesson plan? Right, is just put a text block in there and paste the text in. Now, this is something I wish they would work on in Affinity Publisher. If I copy from Obsidian, or I copy from Notion, or I copy from anywhere else these days, the odds are it'll be Markdown. And this is indeed Markdown. It's not that bad you can't read it, but it doesn't convert it, it doesn't map it to styles, and I would love it if they added that feature, but they haven't. So I need to manually format the whole of this. But it can be done in seconds, and just think about the time I've saved by not sitting down and having to write the actual lesson plan. Right, so this is telling me at the beginning there are 2 hash signs. That is telling me that that is a level 2 heading. So I delete those, so I'm left with the word, and I go to the styles, and although this is not based on any template of mine, if I open up the base style, you do have 2 headings, and this is a heading 2. I don't need the blank line underneath, and I've got these that are numbered, and then I've got another heading. So obviously this is taking me longer because I'm explaining it as I go, but I could probably format this in seconds. Full disclosure, I actually wouldn't do it in here. I would take it into a text editor and I would fly around my text editor. But that's because I'm experienced with it. But you can do it in here, no problem at all. There's our last heading. So I'm deleting the thing at the end, and I'm deleting the 2 that are telling me it's a level 2 heading, putting it in and taking out any extra blank lines. Now, the reason I asked it to create me bulleted lists and things was to show you that when you paste text in, just because it's got numbers on it or it's got bullets on it doesn't actually mean it's numbered text or bulleted text. And in this case, it's not. Don't leave it like that. There's a reason why not. If you come back later and you think, oh, I want to add an extra point after point 3. Right, I'll press enter. Extra point. Yeah, it doesn't automatically update the numbers, so don't do that. Future you won't like it if you do that. So what you really need to do, up here, we'll start with these 3 and show you what happens with these. Again, these are default styles. There is a numbered style, numbered 1. If I do that, it adds numbers. I know, it looks no different. But, just like I said before, if I were to go in there and do that, I don't get the numbers updated. But if I take the time and I take my text and I number it, and obviously I then have to go in here and backspace out of here, which is why I do it in a text editor. Okay, now when I go in there and I want to put an extra point in, there is point 3 and point 4 is automatically updated. So don't leave it. And the same with this. These are not proper bullet points. if we apply the bullet style, we've got proper bullets, not these dashes. So it's dashes in Markdown, but it's very simple to apply it in here. Other reason to do it, if you look at how the learn lines, the L's on here, are lined up, they are lined up perfectly with the materials. But these down here are not. So the B of begin is not lined up with the P of pen. The other issue you've got is, and you wouldn't know that unless you knew that, and you may not know that. These up here only have one line of text. These are wrapping round, and the text is wrapping around, and it's making it difficult to see the numbers. So I'm going to grab all of these, and I'm going to apply that numbered style. And you can see that when it's a proper numbered style, although you have to go in and delete the numbers that are already there, which is why I've done it in a text editor, right? You can see that you get the proper hanging indent and the numbers themselves are clear. As a bonus, these procedure points now line up with everything else. That didn't take that long, did it? Plus the fact you didn't have to write it. Right, next thing to do, because you don't want to leave it looking just like that, do you? I'm going to go and from within Affinity Publisher, I'm not leaving Affinity Publisher with this. It could do with some graphics, couldn't it? It could do with a graphic up there or somewhere near there, and it could do with a graphic somewhere down the bottom. So maybe about there. And I am going to put one more graphic in, but I'm going to leave that at this stage because I've forgotten to put a title in. Right, so I need to be there, and I'm going to put Australia or Australian culture. There we go, and that needs to be a heading 1, and that centres it. Right, which means I'm right, this is going to need to move down a bit. Right, but I'm not going to leave Affinity Publisher to do this. So I'm going to go to Window and Stock. I'm going to search Pixabay for Australia. And with a bit of luck, oh, I'm lucky. Oh, I love koalas. Absolutely love koalas. I need this koala. That's the one I need. I need to put him in there. And there he is. Oh, he's perfect. He's positively perfect. For this image at the bottom, I could do with something quite wide. And I'm thinking of two things. One would be the bridge. There's a nice bridge. I think that would fit in. The other thing that might have worked well was this, but I think it's a bit tall. So let's go find the bridge. There we go, and pop that in there. I may need to scoot that down in size, so let's have a look at it. Width-wise, it's full width already. So best thing to do with that is pull it down a bit so we can see the top of the bridge, like that. This one, because the trees kind of just end, it would be good if we put a stroke on that. So I'll put a stroke on it, big enough that you can see it. And it would make sense that it had a colour that matched. And the colour that I'm thinking of is the flag, which handily is also in the stock. So I've got the size of it, might want it a little bit bigger than that. Let's make it 3.5. And I'm going to go and pick up the colour from the flag without even downloading the flag yet. So I can pick that up in there, make sure that I've got the border active and click on there. Which leaves me one more thing to do, apart from the fact I'm not overly fond of that font either. But what I can do in there, irrespective of the fact I've got multiple styles applied, I've got a heading 1, a heading 2, I've got body style, I've got bullets, I've got numbering. But because everything is based on the base style, which we can see by opening the tree, if I go to the base style and I edit the base style, and I change the font from Arial to Poppins, and do that, it should have rippled through, and I think it has apart from the body style. So what gives with the body style? Oh, well, what are you based on? You're based on base, so I have no idea why you're not updating. Never mind, I will just make you Poppins and you will work. I will just force you to work. Is it not formatted in some kind of way? Oh, there's no style on it. Okay, well, let's make it body. And let's make that body. And now it'll work. Awesome. Right. One more thing I want to do, which is to jazz it up even more. I want to put an image behind it. Now, two ways to do this, the right way and the wrong way. Let's do the wrong way first. You find an image, you think that's a nice image, I'll just dump it on there and then put it in the background. No, don't do that, because you'll have to crop and scale and, oh, it'll be a mess. Leave it be. But I've already downloaded it now, it's sat there. So if I just turn it off, I can still do it the right way at this stage, which is to go in and choose a picture frame, put the picture frame where I want it, which is there, but I don't want a border on it, so I'll turn the border off. At the moment the picture frame's on the top, don't want it on the top, want it behind everything. So I'll pull it down so it's just above the master page. Then I'll take the picture and I will put that inside the frame, which should be working. Only I turned it off. Turn it on, you can see it. Now, at that point, obviously, no, that's not good. But what I can do in here, I can move it. I do not need to be editing that. I can move it and I can scale it. So I would probably, at that point, scale it up a bit and move it towards the left. So I can move it with the controller in the middle. I grab that. So we can see the flagpole, but we can also see more of the flag. Like that. Obviously, it makes it difficult to read the text, but I'm going to change the opacity so it's really quite low. Around the 15, 16 mark, something like that. And I think with that, you can see that there is the Australian flag behind it, the koala, really needed Skippy on there as well, and the text. And you've got your lesson plan that you didn't have to write. Do we have any questions about creating a lesson plan?
We do have a couple of questions.
Hang on, you need to be turned on. Right.
We do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Patience says, is Notion the app that you had said had a limited number of AI prompts?
No, that was Craft. Craft had 50 a month and then it had 100 a month. I didn't find Craft as accurate as Notion. Now, the difference with Notion is there is no limit in Notion, but you have to apply to have it on your account. And there was a waiting list. So when I applied, I got the mail, I looked at it and thought, want. And I joined the list and it said you are 21,000 and something in the list, which I thought was bad. Until... Did you actually join the list? Somebody joined the list and told me that they were something like 36 millionth in the list. So at the moment, with Notion, as far as I know, it's still a waiting list. But no, there's no limit per month with Notion. And it's getting better and better all the time. The other option you've got is ChatGPT, which is totally free, but you need an account. And to get an account, you do have to two-factor it. So they need a phone number. The other thing is, sometimes it's very, very busy because it's, flavour of the month at the moment and everybody is using it. But I think you can see from the quality of the lesson plan, and the Icelandic one I thought was even better. It's very clever. And people are using it, not particularly, don't do this. Don't say to it, write me a blog post and then post it. Use it as a starting point. If you want to actually see it, let me see if I can get it to do the Icelandic one again. I was impressed with the Icelandic one. Right, let's move back to there and show you the Icelandic one. Right. What I do when I'm asking it to do things is I put in the prompt. So that line wasn't there. This was what I asked it to do. Create a lesson plan for 12-year-olds explaining the history and culture of Iceland. That was what I asked it to do. So I'm going to copy that. You never get the same thing twice. So it is random. Sometimes you need to do it 2-3 times, but this is what I do. I add a new page. The reason I always add a new page when I'm asking AI something is because it's context aware of where you are. So if I'm on a page that's talking about the Netherlands and I ask it about Iceland, it'll be like, well, which do you want? So I'm starting on a new page and I have the option to start writing with AI. And you can see that it's suggesting that you create drafts. So in other words, this isn't final, this is your starting point. So you could ask it to brainstorm ideas. We discussed that, didn't we? It's Thought Shower in the UK. But brainstorm ideas, write a blog post, create an outline for something, write a social media post, or whatever. You can see more if you want to. So write a poem. I think we did that in a demo. We did a poem. Write a to-do list. I have no idea how that would work. Unless you're asking, what would I need to do if I wanted to fly to the moon? And it might add as an item, buy a rocket. But I don't tend to do any of that. I just tend to ask it what I want. So I would tend to, and I don't want you to do that. That wasn't what I wanted. I didn't put the whole thing in. Oh, for crying out loud. Right, what I'll do is I'll go back and I will get that. I thought I'd copied just the thing, not the whole thing. Got to love it. Right, that is what I want to copy, not the whole thing. Right, let's go back in here. My page is called Untitled at the moment. And if it's not there, AI is so central to Notion now that I only have to press the space bar, and that is what it will do. Or I can use the slash and I can put AI and you'll see it, ask AI to write. So I wanted to do one of these things, and with a bit of luck, that's what I wanted it to do. And as it goes through, you can see it is literally writing it as you go. And you can either say, okay, I'm done. You can ask it to continue writing. You can ask it to make it longer. If you don't like it, you can ask it to try again. But as I look at that, that's a good lesson plan. It's a good start. I might choose to add extra things in it. Isn't it Iceland that have got the little gremlins? I'm not sure what they're called. The trolls. Is it the trolls?
I've no idea.
They've got lots of history around, what's it? Tolkien. I might choose to ask it to add that. Can you add something about that? But that's not bad. That's not bad. I mean, I know some of it's obvious. If we're talking about Iceland, we're going to need a map of Iceland and some pictures and maybe some video clips. But just the fact that it's written it for me means I can concentrate on what that actually looks like. So that is what it's like. No, you are not limited in Notion, but there is a wait list. Right, do we have any other questions?
We do, from Joe, who says, would the markdown conversion be quicker with paste it into Word and copy from Word into Publisher?
Could be, but your problem with that is it would bring in all kinds of detritus in the styles panel. So, as I say, what I tend to do with it is in a text editor. The reason why in a text editor, where did I copy that from? Let me have a look. Where did I copy it from? Oh, it was in Notion, wasn't it? Right, let's bring it back. I will show you why I find it faster. In fact, we could use that one. That would do. Right, let's grab that and we'll copy that. And I would do it in my text editor. I've got two text editors that I use all the time, but Sublime Text is the one for this, trust me. Right, I paste that in. For a start, I can do a search and replace on these, but I probably wouldn't at this stage because I've no way in a text editor of telling it that that is a heading 2. Unless, and this is basically worth another session, I could search and replace in here and say, if you find 2 of these, replace it with code underscore H2. And then when I get that text into Affinity Publisher, I can run a global search and replace, and I can remove the text and apply a style in the search and replace in Publisher. So that's probably what I would do. Because I don't need any of these at all, I would probably do this, which is search for that, replace it with nothing, boom, and they're gone. What else have we got? These ones here. If I didn't particularly want those, then I can actually in here hold the Option key down and lose them together. So if I just want that to have XX at the beginning, I can do it on multiple lines. Now that's just because I'm so fast with a text editor. But if it was like 50 pages in Markdown, I would replace the things I wanted replacing, like the bullet points. I would replace it with a code. So I literally here would probably put code underscore bullet 1. And I would do my search and replace in Publisher, and I would delete that text and the space following it, and I would replace it with a style. And that would be much, much faster. But if you paste it into Word and then you copy it from Word and you paste it in, then it brings in all kinds of stuff from Word. So I probably wouldn't. But it's going to depend on the document. It is going to depend on the document. But most of my work is done in here. If I look for, let me get a link. What have I got open here? Oh, let's use my blog millions of times. Right. The reason that I'm in a text editor is if I do this, where I put in, say I've got a list of links like that, only they are markdown links. So I take that and I put in that, and I put Elaine's blog. Only I don't have one link. No, it wouldn't be that simple, would it? No, I would probably have hundreds of links. And I want to make them not markdown links. And this is just a feature of a text editor, but if I turn this on, I get multiple cursors. So if I don't want them to be bulleted, I take that away. If I don't want that at the beginning, I just want the links, I can take that away. I can move to the end, I can take that away, and then I escape, and I finish editing multiple lines. But that takes time to learn how to do that. You don't do that, do you?
No.
Poor Mike's brain would explode. No, but it depends how much you do it, and I do that a lot. Do we have anything else before we move on?
Yes. Sarah says, will you be doing something similar for worksheets, i.e. several numbered exercises with sub-numbered items? I produce a whole lot of worksheets, and whilst I've managed to get all the numbers updating automatically just the way I want to, sometimes I have a sentence with 2 or 3 gaps to fill in. Is there a way to have the numbered list in line?
There probably is. What would be a good idea if you could send me a sample and point out on it where it's going wrong, then that would be great. Because, if I put one together, I'll probably put it together in a way that works, and you might say, no, I need a different layout. So send me an example and I will have a look at that. Right, are we done?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's shut down Australia and head off into what I think is the last one. Yes, worksheets. But worksheets of a specific kind. So let's have a look at that. Right. With this one, I'm going to show you where we're heading. It is, you complete, you are. Let's have a look. Right. It's remove the links. What links? There were no links. Don't be silly. Right. What we've got is that. And it looks fairly simple, but how I've put it together means I can do magic with it. So obviously it's a table. Anybody have any idea on there how many tables there are? I know the answer to that. Do you know the answer to that, Mike? Not a clue. No. Put in the chat, if you're with me live, how many tables there are there. So I've used lots of different features of Affinity Publisher to make this work. I've used global colours, I've got tables. This should be a clue to you. I've got nested tables, I've used Studio Link. There are symbols in there, table formatting, and a manual table sizing. So there's lots of features of Affinity Publisher that has gone into creating something that looks relatively simple, but it's not. So let's start from scratch and make that. Mrs. Yarnold. Mrs. Yarnold has decided 11. Oh, very well done. There are 11 tables in there. Right, so I'm just using A4 as we've done all along, and I need a table. So again, we're starting with a table. Again, I don't care how many we've got here. I just need to know. I can't remember how many we've got. Let's have a look. I know that there's 11 that, no, there's 10 that way and 6 the other way. So I just need 10 by 6. So let's go into there and put 10. Go into there and put 6. In fact, we can just hit that. Right, and then stretch it out. Right, the first column was 1.6, I think. No, 6. Right, so this column here needed to be bigger, and I know exactly what size it needs to be. So in my table panel, I could, in there, bring that on. No, that's the wrong one. Oh, come on, table panel. That's it. Technically speaking, I could type it in. It might work. Let's find out. 6 centimetres. Right. That doesn't leave much room for B, but never mind. Let's see if we can grab B, or if B doesn't want to know. B wants to be bigger. Right. Grab B through to there, and again, just what we've seen, evenly distribute columns. Right. Let's move that from there. You're sitting over my notes. Right. The next thing, and I'll do this now, is just to centre in both directions. So all the content that I want to put in here, I want it centred vertically and be in the middle horizontally. Right. Let's start off with the easy bit, shall we? Which is in here, I need to put, in this case, 1. So I'm going to put 1 in there. And I can, of course, put 1 in all of these because that's what's going in it. And 2 in here and so forth. Right. Why have I put 3? Oh, the old mind's going. Right. Oh, no, no, no. Now it's changed the opacity. Crying out loud. Don't leave me to type things. It's live in a demo. It never ends well. Right. There we go. There's 2. We'll fill the rest in shortly. In fact, what would have been clever is to go down here and then copy and paste. You see why I use Excel so much? Because I just have no patience sitting in here and typing these things in. But I will do it, so they are all in there. Then we need to do some magic formatting that, obviously. But let's take these and copy and paste. And hopefully I've not made any silly errors. Soon find out if I have. Right, there they are. And I think it would be a good idea to save this as my worksheet before there's a calamity. Right, so I'm going to focus on one of these and format them. In fact, I'm going to focus on this one and format it. Right, as we know, I've been using my favourite fonts, but the font I need for this is not there. So I'm going to switch back to all. And it starts KG. These are free fonts. I think I used that one. And I made it much bigger. So it needs to be bigger as well. So this is the kind of thing that you see. Let me get this out of the way. You're always in the way. Where are we? Right, take that bigger. There we go. So 64, that'll work. Right, so that looks like that. I'm going to start formatting this in lots of different ways. So I'm not going to format the rest of them. I'm going to leave this one here while I sort out the rest of the things that I need. I need this to be dark blue. I think this was some kind of navy blue that I had this. So what I'm going to do with that is make a colour for it. So I'm going to go, and I don't have in here, this is a brand new file, so I don't have any special panels or anything. But what I'm going to do is add a global colour. And I happen to have the hex code that I want, which I've called dark blue. So I'm going to paste that in there. And you have to move out of that. You also, oh, in this case, it's actually worked, I think. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't, and you actually need to click in it. So this one's going to be, we'll call this one dark and the other one light, and that'll do. Okay, so let's add that and hope that it works. So I'm going to click it to apply it in here, and it looks like that has worked. So the size of that, the font of that, the colour of that is what I want on all of the others. So obviously the next thing to do is to create a text style for it. Now, it's totally different from every style in here. I'm not going to have any text in here that's not that. But just in case I want to add any text, I'm going to create it as a completely separate style. So I'm going to say, make me a paragraph style. Because the text is in a table, it suggests that I'm making a table text style that's based on table body. And actually, I'm not. In this circumstance, I'm not. So I would say that this is not based on anything. And I don't want it called table body either. This is, at this stage, it's called numbers. You know, this is the style that's going to be on the numbers. So, okay, that. And that should have put down here a numbers style that is totally on its own. If I fold that up to base, you can see the numbers style is on its own. Right, now I've got a style. If I get all of these and those, I should, where it's formatted as table body, I should be able to make it numbers, not numbered, numbers. And it formats those automatically. You might be wondering why I've left these alone. These are the reference. So this looks a bit thin, and it looks thin deliberately. It's so that you can print these out and the child can draw around the numbers. This being the reference column, it needs to be a bit deeper. So I could apply the number style. It's not a bad starting point, but I think it needs something. Now, what I actually would have loved to have done with it is make it bold, and the font doesn't support it. That's unfortunate. But if I go into here and I select one of these numbers, so I would like this to be bold and I can't make it bold. No, but what I can do is apply a stroke to it. It looks a little bit bubbly, but it gets there. So if I take that up a bit, I can actually make it that it's much more solid. So that's not too bad. I'll have it like that. Now, the only issue I've got with that is it's black. That's because the stroke is on the outside and I haven't applied the correct colour to that. And when I do, I need it to be the document global colour, obviously. Right, I could at that point copy that and apply the style from that number 2 to all of the others in here. But it would probably be a better idea to make it a style. So I'm going to go in there and it says it's based on numbers, which is correct. It already knows it's got numbers in there. But this one is numbers bold. So let's go in there and put bold and OK. Right, the reason that I've nested numbers bold under numbers is so if I change the font in numbers, it will ripple through. What I then need to do down here is apply numbers bold to the reference numbers. And I've got one more at the top. There, numbers bold. Right, so far, so good. I do need another colour though, another global colour. So I'm going to add a global colour. I've got the hex code for it. And I'm going to put that in there. And when I press tab, it adds it up there, and I'll call that the light colour. And add. Right, so far so good. I am going to need to format this table in some kind of way with borders and things, but we can do that later. Because we need to get onto the nice bit, don't we? Oh, the exciting bit. Right, I'm going to add another page for no reason other than convenience, that I need to create what I'm calling the count table. The count table being, if we look at the original, the little dots, basically the little dots. So I need another table. So I'm going to create a table here. And it only needs, did I have them all in one? No, I didn't. Oh no, I'm lying to myself. Right, I had 2 rows, but I had 5 columns, 1 in each one. Right. And it didn't look like that, obviously. It needs to be bigger, etc. Now, what I did was I noted, I was thinking, what size do I want these dots? And each cell needs to be the same size. So if I tell you that the cell size is 11 millimeters square, you should instantly know what size the rest of it is. 5 times 11 is 55 and 2 times 11 is 22. So it's 55 millimeters wide and 22 millimeters tall. And I put that in here, I do believe. So if I go in here, I grab my cells and I want the cell width to be 11 and the height to be 11. Perfect. The dots inside them were just shapes. So in here, where's my shapes? There's my shapes. It was literally just a circle that was 8.8 millimeters. Colour-wise, it was the aqua colour over here, which has flipped around, which we don't particularly want like that. And then I needed to place these in here. So copy that and go into here. Now at the moment you can see the cursors flashing in the top corner. I want them centred in there. So I'll flip into here again and paste and paste and paste. Now this is probably what you would do. Don't do that. Can we do it? Let me think. No. That's what you would think that you would do, but that's not what we're going to do. So we've got an idea. That's what we need to do, but I don't want to do it just yet. This is the only, at this stage, shape that we're concerned about. We could do that. It's got a global colour on it, so we could, if we did it that way, change the global colour and all the dots would change, which would be great. But we can do better than that. So if you've never seen global colours before and you're wondering what on earth I'm talking about, I mean if you have two items and they are formatted with a global colour, and that's not what I'm trying to do either, come on, and I go into here and I edit the global colour, thus they both change. So that's not a bad start, but that's not what we're after. So I'll take them back to where they were, and we only want one. What I'm going to do, I've saved the file at this point, purely for safety, just in case. If I go up to my Studio Link and I go over to Designer, I have an extra option. And my extra option is to make this a symbol. And I can do that with adding it. It did say create, there we go. In fact, I don't do it at that stage. I come over here and where I've got it, this would be my counter. So I'd call it counter and then I would create one of these up here. At this point, making sure that I've got my counter, now I would add this into here. So I can take this and I can go in there and paste it. And what I'm actually putting in there is an instance of a symbol. Now, it at this stage makes no difference, but hold on to your hats later. So I've got a table like that. What's happening over here is I've got my counter that's at the bottom and out of the way, which I don't need. And in here, I've got a counter in each of these. So far, so good. Right, I'm going to flick back into Publisher at that point. So I've got the table that I need, not too fond of the borders in it, etc., but we'll get rid of that. So in here, I think we've got border applied at the moment and we don't need it. So there are the dots. So I don't want to select one dot, I want to select the entire table. And I'm going to copy that and I'm going to go back to page 1. I'm going to start at the bottom. And with a bit of luck, I'm going to paste that in and it's going to paste it in place. And I know that the count is wrong. And I know you know the count is wrong. There are advanced ways I can fiddle with that, but I'm going to delete them. So we've got a lot of things to delete, haven't we? But let's start at 9, where I've only got to get rid of 1. So what I'm going to do there, you see, it clicks it inside it because you've still got the table tool. But if you get rid of the table tool and you actually just select what you want to delete, it's actually not as time consuming as you might think. When I was doing this in rehearsals, I did manage to get to the top and be one out. I missed number 6, I think. So you're 5. Right, so we should be getting rid of these. I can just out of the corner of my eye see the chart moving. Right, let's get rid of these. This is 4. So that's 4. Right, and I could do this where I make the selection first and then just press delete once. But you know, what's the fun in that? Right, I'll go on, I'll show you. Oh, it's not happy with that. It's not happy with that at all. I don't know why. Okay. Oh, no! Don't do that. Don't do that. Right. Delete. Delete, delete. We only need 2. We're getting there. Honestly, we're getting there. And we're finally onto the top 1. Okay. Right, we're done. Okay, I'm going to save that. Don't want that disappearing. Right, so what's left to do? Need to format this where the cells, so once I've got nested tables, it makes sense to select from the other side. So if I want to select multiple cells, so I don't lose those nested tables, I would select from the right hand side backwards. Right, once I've got that like that, I would like to put on the outside border, so the whole thing, let's have that something like 4. Yeah, 4's probably enough, isn't it? And what I'll do with it, I'll use the dark one for that. So I'm choosing the colour from in here, I'm going to swatches, choosing from my document panel my dark colour. Then with the same group selected, I'm going to choose the inside ones, and 1/2 to 1 is probably enough in there. And this time I'm going to choose the light colour, which is that one. And hopefully it's all light and bright when we click away. Right, that's it. We've created it. The beauty of this is you can change the numbers for letters, you can change the reference to shapes or whatever you want to do. You've just created the basics of it here, and the whole thing is repurposable. Right, let's have a look in what way it's repurposable. So if I go into this colour and I edit the fill, bearing in mind it's a global colour, and I change this, I'm changing the whole thing, or I should be. Yes, you are changing, aren't you? You are. Oh, I know what I didn't do. I didn't make that a global colour. Oh, naughty, naughty. I should have made that a global colour. So what I'll do with that is I will take all of that back. Are you gonna let me do this? Come on. That's it. Right. What should be happening as I change that is I should change this, but I was naughty and I didn't do it right, did I? So that's fine. I can fix that. I can go back. In fact, I don't even have to do this, but I will go back into it and I will select this. And when I go into the swatches, I will make it that colour, which is what I should have done in the first place, but I didn't. Right, so I've come back into here now, and let's see that works. Please work. Don't make a liar out of me. Right, let's make, there we go. So even retrospectively, even if you are an idiot like I am, and you forget to do that, you can do it retrospectively. Right, so what's changing is anything that's got that colour applied to it. So both the lines inside and the shapes themselves are changing colour. Right, I'm quite happy with the colour they were, so I'm going to undo it and get them back to what they were. That's what they were, I think. And the same applies to the blue. So if I go and I edit that, anything that's got that colour applied to it will automatically be changed. So this is why it's worth using the global colours. I love updating stuff like that because, you know, a client will say to you, I want it this colour, and before you know it, no, they don't. No, they don't. They're lying. They then decide they want it another colour. Okay. Do we like that? Do we like how that pulled together? Is everybody liking that, Mike?
Yes.
Good. Right. But we're about to get really clever. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select one of these shapes. So, and it can be any one of these shapes, doesn't matter. Let's pick that one there. If you go to your layers panel, you will see in here, so I'm going to fold the whole thing up. Everything is contained within the table. Within the table, I've got all of the counters. So if we fold all of these up, I think we do have a fold up all, don't we? Collapse all. Yeah, but I don't want that. Ah, that's better. Right, so each one of these is the table inside there. Right. Oh, Pandemonium says doesn't just like it. Love it. Oh, thank you, Muriel. Thank you. Right. So it's even better than that. It doesn't matter which one of these I pick. Even though this is Affinity Publisher, I have not switched to Designer at this stage. I am still in Affinity Publisher. If I go into any one of these and pick one of these shapes, that happens to be the shape. It's showing me in the panel. As I open it, that is the counter. If I make a change to that, it will change them all. But I don't just mean change the colour. I mean change it. Big style. So with this selected, if I go into my shapes and I choose a different shape, so something like a double star, you know, kids love stars, don't they? Right, so I've selected the star. I'm going to zoom in so you can actually see it happen. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a star on there like that. So I want to centre it with what I've got. So I'm going to do that and hold that down. Awesome. Right. That does not look like it's doing what I want it to do, but time will tell. Time will tell. It should be. Oh, I think it might be. Right, what I'm then going to do is, obviously you can't see the star unless I change the colour of the star. So if I were to make the star a blue colour, not only has the star appeared in the counter that I am editing, it's appeared in every one of them because it's a symbol. Affinity Publisher has no interface for interacting with symbols. If I want to do anything clever with it, I'm going to need to go to Designer. So I designed it in Designer, but in Publisher I can edit it. So if I just want it to be a blue star and I don't want the background, I can toggle that off. If I want it to be a star but I want it to be the other colour, I can change the colour of it. And that has applied to the whole thing. So if you had in here, instead of a star or a dot, you had a number 1 because that was a 1. Or you had some kind of reward for the child, they'd love it. So this is the other thing that I did. And this is where you pull together lots of different features that actually have nothing to do with each other. It doesn't matter. Right, so we've had the star, we've had the dot. There's a feature inside Affinity Publisher, Designer and Photo that many people know about and don't use it. It's a gimmick. If I click on here, you can see all of the shapes, apart from one, which you don't see. I think you see it on Halloween. But if you hold down the Option key as you click the triangle in the corner, you get the cat tool. Oh, we could give the children a cat. So when I click on the cat tool, making sure that I'm inside the counter, I'm going to draw a cat. So let's draw the cat out. So let's draw him. Hang on a minute. You're not drawing the cat because I'm pressing the wrong thing. No, let's undo that and go back and get the cat. Here we go. There's the cat. I want the cat. It's that key I'm trying to be holding. There's the cat. Now, you can't see him too well at the moment, and I need to move him so he's centred in there. I do believe that's the cat centred. And if I turn off the dot... Oh, hang on, the cat's not in the right place. Cat needs to be down there inside the counter. If I turn off the dot, we've now got cats. And more importantly, the children have got cats. So that's why, if you think about these things up front and you plan accordingly, future you will be able to edit this stuff in hindsight and make different worksheets based on original worksheets. Now, I know it's very tempting to just throw something together because you need to get it out yesterday. But if you do take the time to do it properly, future you can churn these worksheets out. You can change the colours, you can change the shapes, you can change everything about them in seconds, which is why it's worth knowing all these features, isn't it? Right, so that was that. Did I have anything else? Oh, one thing I was going to say with that is the numbers, but you could just as easily change that to letters if you wanted to. So if I go in there, that's already formatted. If I wanted to make that a letter A, all I would need to do, and of course, actually I could make symbols of these and then update them automatically. So it doesn't matter if it's numbers or letters, it can easily be done. Okay, so Recap, we did loads. We looked at daily planner pages. We did a vertical one, a horizontal one. Then we had lots of fun with dates, getting smart with dates. But you know, it all worked out in the end. And the thing was, the reason that I did it that way, I did not want to edit the data that was easy to make in Excel, and nor did I want to edit what I'd done in Affinity Publisher. It's such a time saver to edit neither of them. Then we looked at the trackers, the grade tracker, the attendance tracker. We did clever things with alternate line colours and flipping the text around. Then we had the lesson plan where we created the content fast because it was all automated. Obviously, I suggest that teacher checks it. You never know what might be in there that's inappropriate, but the actual content itself, it just takes the pressure off you for having to think about it and format it. You know, all you need to do is get the text in there and work on the layout. And then worksheets, learning numbers, learning letters. Okay, that was today. This is part of the Affinity Publisher Planner series. So it's been going longer than I expected, with a big gap in the middle because they brought out a new version. But we started with planner pages in Affinity Publisher. All the links for these are in the description below the video. And there's a QR code there if you can't wait. We then added interactivity to it. We started to look at data merge, and the first data merge was quite straightforward because it was per page. So there was one date on one page. We then got more advanced when we wanted to put a whole week and we wanted control of the layout. And that was why I did a dedicated session for that. Then we did digital planner stickers. We had great fun with that. I also covered data merge from soup to nuts in a different session, which is deep dive data merge in Affinity Publisher. So that one's been out there a couple of years now, I think, coming up for 18 months. This one was today's, and next week we're back to school again. This time planner pages for students. And anything else and everything else that I do, you'll find on YouTube at youtube.com/ElaineGiles. I have an All Things Affinity playlist. I also have an Affinity Publisher playlist. And yesterday I created a playlist for the Planner series. So it just contains the 6 sessions so far that have been dedicated to the planners. If you don't want to miss anything, subscribe to the channel. And there's a notification bell that you can hit, and you will then be reminded when I'm going live and when I post stuff. It has been a pleasure, my pleasure here. If you have enjoyed it, please give the video a like. And if you want first notification of everything that I do, you need to go to elainegiles.com/VIP, and that's my newsletter. What we do with the newsletter is let you know when we've got new sessions coming up. You'll get another notification, well, another mail that gives you what we've done and direct links to specific parts of it. So every little demo has its own link and you can go straight to that. And as promised, we're going to head into Q&A. So what questions have we got?
None that haven't been answered.
Oh, don't tell me that. Now we've got to Q&A. I always say I'm not going to answer them on the fly, but then we do. You've got to come up with some more. Right, so come up with some more questions. Oh dear, dear, dear. Right, I can't see this. I'm going to have to zoom in or you're going to have to read it. There we go. So I've thanked Muriel. Thank you very, very much. Money for quality. Oh, I'm glad that you're going to use it. I'd love to see what you do. If you've got anything you can share, that would be great. You're very welcome, Sarah. And Richard says, thank you very much for tonight. Fantastic. As always, glad you enjoyed it.
There's a question.
Right. Could I do a directed drawing page? If I knew what a directed drawing page was, I probably could. Do you mean something like a dot to dot? Something like that? We didn't have those in my day. We had chalkboards. Not quite that old. What does that look like? Have you got an example that I could see? That would be great. Is there any others I need to go back to?
No,
let me scroll.
What is a directed drawing? A step-by-step process through which students draw something.
Oh, right. Half's drawn and the other's blank. absolutely no reason why not. What degree of fidelity to what it is that they're drawing is the half that they have to draw? Is it completely blank? Is there an outline? If you've got any examples, that'd be great. But yes, that would be absolutely simple. I would probably deploy photo with that, with some filters. Depending on what it is, I don't think you could say, oh, this is how you do it. You know, you always apply that filter. I think the filter would change depending on what the illustration is. But yes, you could definitely do that. Simple shapes or images. Yep, absolutely. I will do the Googles for some. And we can put some of those in next week. Might make a note, remind me before I forget. Like my own name and stuff like that.
Right, there's a couple of questions.
Okay, where you go.
Sarah says, how can you get more fonts?
Are you talking fonts in general? There are some very, very good font sites that are free. So let me show you a couple. Let's come out of there. Why aren't you moving? You're playing with my mind. Right, let's get this up, which is our this is our Iceland one, isn't it? One of the sites that is absolutely brilliant is free fonts. Hang on. What's that? Is it font 1001 or something? No, Dafont. Dafont. There you go. That's one of them, but Dafont is one that I use a lot. So dafont.com. 99% of what's on here is free, and it's a great site to go looking for fonts because they're organised. There's no point looking at fonts in an A to Z list. So if I'm looking for cartoon fonts for MacBytes, then I look at the cartoon fonts. If I'm looking for Western fonts, when I'm doing wanted posters and stuff like that, they're all grouped in sensible groups, and all of these are free. So I start at Dafont, and if I can't find what I'm looking for at Dafont, then I'll move on. So some of the stuff I use quite a bit, typewriter fonts, you would not believe there's that many of them. I remember years ago, this 1942 report font, it was about the only font that looked like a typewriter, and I was doing graphics for the X-Files, and it was exactly what I needed. And I look now and just look how many different fonts there are for typewriters. Amazing. Another one that I use a lot is the stencils. Hang on, stencil. Love these. These are great for book covers, and the kind of grungy look, which is really in book covers, believe it or not. It's really in. I use the stencil ones when I'm making like stamps for either planner pages or just within a design. So something like this D-Day one. They are absolutely brilliant. So I start there. But another thing you can do is if you have some text and you don't know what font it is. So let's have a look if we can find one here. Something like a sans serif font or a modern font. Let's have a look. I don't know if it would find some stuff like this. It works with stuff like Arial, Helvetica, and all the different nuances of those. But let's pick something like that Vampire Wars there. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw around that. So that gives me an image. I'm going to take that off screen. Right, there is a service called What the Font. So I'll just do a search for What the Font, and that's my font. That's not what the font. There you go. What the Font. So you go to this page and it asks you to drop an image. So you take a screenshot of the image. Now in this case, that's the image. So I'm going to drag and drop that on. And it uploads it, or it tries to upload it. Oh, do I have to set the cookies for it to upload it? Oh, it's got this ad over the top of it. Come on, get out of the way. Yes, I accept your cookies. Let's try again. Let's try and drag that image. There we go. Right, so it's found a word, it's drawn around it, and then I click this. And it gives you some fonts that are similar to that, and hopefully one is identical. Like I say, it works better on fonts that aren't as crazy as that one. So if you've got something like a specific version of Avenir that's Avenir, semi-bold, it does a really good job of finding them. So there's 2 ways that you can do it. Try a site like DaFont where you actually look at the fonts, or take a screenshot of a font that you want something similar, and you can see some of these are paid for, some of them are free. Just depends. Hope that helps. What else we got?
Sorry.
Go on, what else we got?
Oh, question from Peter. Is there any way other than laying a separate text box over the table to have a diagonal text?
Not yet, I don't think. That was one of the things I was going to test with version 2, but I don't think they've added that yet. That is annoying. But personally, I find there's a lot of quirks, let's put it like that I'd love to see fixed, like the dates. I don't expect that it pulls in dates from Excel and shows me a serial number. It's a good job Mike's here, put it like that, for when bad words are said. And I knew what to do to fix it, but I just like to vent. So Mike knows that I'm not pleased. There's a lot of quirks. I don't think they fixed that one yet. I was thinking, could you skew it? So maybe Studio Link it to one of the other apps and skew it in there. But I think if you did that, it would have to... I don't think you could skew half of a table. I don't think you can do that yet, unfortunately. Right, what else have we got?
That's it.
Oh, okay then. Oh, Sarah says, thank you for pronouncing my name so well. Oh, you're welcome. And, okay. Yes, Patience, Creative Fabrica are great. They do have lots of fonts. They do 3 free gifts a day, don't they? And I think one of them is always a font. So if we toddle off and have a look at that, let's come out of here. Where's my browser gone? Why are you being so slow?
Patience says, could you format the text in Excel and paste it
in? For it to be editable text, it would need to support that, and I don't believe that it does. Right, let's try Creative Fabrica. No, that's it, near enough. Near enough, I'll find it from here. Right, where are their free things? They usually have 3 every day. Where are they? Oh, you're just showing me loads and loads of stuff, and I just want to see the freebies. Show me the freebies. Where are they? Hang on. I do believe I have the link here. There we go. So every day they put a font in. There we go. Free gifts. So today's is Texas. And there's also 100 days of school, so now would be a good time to go visit. So if you want to put that in the chat, Mike, creativefabrica.com daily-gifts. And the other one is a married couple kissing. I don't know why they have to be married to kiss, but there you go. So these are the 3 that are free today. And then tomorrow morning, I think it's about 6:30.
creativefabrica.com /
daily-gifts. They change every day. So I think there's probably some overlap at some point, and there's a membership that you can get, and then you get the whole lot for free. Some of the stuff that I really like in here is the graffiti fonts. I think they're amazing. They look stunning. So if we look...
I nearly typed the word dash then.
No, don't type dash.
It's like the old joke about typing the word space.
Yes. There you go. That one is $8 at the moment, but if you remember, it's free. And I just think these fonts are fantastic. I love graffiti fonts. You can never have too many graffiti fonts. Because I remember when I was learning Photoshop back in the early 90s, putting graffiti on a wall meant that you had to understand blend modes and all kinds of stuff. And it was like, I got one graffiti font. It always looked the same. And when I got my hands on a load of others, it was like, oh, this is going to be brilliant now. So yeah, graffiti fonts. I'm a sucker for a good graffiti font. Look at them all. Oh, there's hundreds of them. I love them. Absolutely love them. I just like bright colours, I think. But you can also get those graffiti fonts. You'll find, I think there's a section at DaFont. Does DaFont have... Oh, you're not doing that. There we go, DaFont. I'm sure there's a graffiti section because I raided it for my demos. Let's have a look. Fancy. Not seeing graffiti. That is eroded, but that's not quite the same, is it? Is there graffiti? Techno fonts. Oh, I thought there was. There it is, graffiti. It's under script. Look at them. Ah, fantastic. Can't get enough. I like fonts like this that have got like a gap in them because they integrate well when you're blend moding them with something. So yes, any of those will give you that. Right, I need to get back into there, I think. Right, let's get that up. And do we have any more questions, or is that it?
That is it. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you for being with me. Hopefully you'll join us again next week, same time, same place, Pages for Students. Doesn't matter if you are in education or not. I know the majority of you probably aren't. It's features of Affinity are features of Affinity, but by trying to do something specific for a specific audience, you do hit brick walls, as I discovered in the middle of last week with like, well, that's not going to work, is it? I think if you don't have those kind of restraints, you just assume that everything will work. But when you do put a restraint in, like, I'm technical enough I could have rebuilt the data. But I thought, no, I'm not going to rebuild the data because an average person wants to just pull down, say, weekdays, and then I'm done. Not pull down, say, weekdays, I'm done, and then spend 3 hours formatting the data. And then when I got to the other end with like, okay, that's sorted, the Excel side sorted. And then I get to the other end and I'm like, now you want me to redesign it, and I'm not doing it. So again, I could have done it at either end, but I wanted it to be, let's keep it as simple as possible. And that was what led to that demo. So hopefully I will see you all again. Any questions meanwhile, get in touch. But other than that, I'm going to say good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we'll both see you next time.